Hello, Envision community. My name is Olivia, and welcome to our December call for this special year in review and 2023 preview. Joining me today are Charles and Matt. I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Charles. I do sales marketing and consulting here and sort of help identify client needs as we work with clients and get feedback.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I lead product development. And part of my role is to kind of help shape the long-term vision for our products.
Yeah, very good. Today, we are excited to chat about what our Envision community team delivered this year in our 20th year of business. It's been quite a busy year with our team and our amazing clients working together to improve the Envision community software and the user experience. So through collaboration on our community and one-on-one sessions with our customers, we have identified needs and delivered so many wonderful additions and improvements. So today we will dive into what we delivered, talk about the needs and the trends that we are seeing, and fill you in on where we are headed for next year. So everyone, while you're watching today, please feel free to use the Q&A feature in the webinar to ask any questions about specific features we delivered this year, questions about what to expect for next year and into the future, anything like that. We do love your participation, so feel free to ask away so we can answer those live. We are excited to do a bit of an interview style today, where we will incorporate questions that some of you have asked in advance and also give you lots of great information that we're sure you'll love to hear. So ask your questions and we will answer those at the end of the call today. So Charles, we will start with you. How would you describe the theme or perhaps multiple themes of this year? And were those themes planned or perhaps a pivot from what was previously envisioned at the end of 2021?
Well, we make plans all the time, and our plans tend to be pretty good in the short run. We kind of know pretty clearly what we're going to do, but I think one of our strengths is that we do tend to pivot where it makes sense. We may plan something out, and then a client may come along with a feature suggestion or request, and we may say, "Oh, that's actually a really great idea. And yeah, we'll totally do that," and then we implement that along the way. Because having a plan is wonderful, but you have to be flexible with stuff like that because industry needs change. Take COVID and things like that. That really changed how people engage with online communities, and we had to sort of make sure we were able to meet client needs along the way. And you can't predict things like that. Also, sometimes along the way we'll implement it, and this happened this year, like when we did our events application. We implemented something, clients were super excited about it, so we went back and did another round of improvements. And you can't predict that. You hope clients will love everything you do, but some things land better than others, and that was the kind of thing where like, gee, let's spend some more time on that. So I would think our big goals for this year were sort of content engagement, helping people engage with existing content, and also some focus on support communities. That's a big driver of growth for us. Our clients who use their community platform to provide like customer service, customer support, stuff like that. So a lot of features in that area too.
Very good. Matt, we'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, I think definitely, as Charles says, we tend to get together and kind of draft out a rough plan for the year, but we try not to put too much detail in because we know that things change. As Charles said, people come with great ideas, or something happens that we sort of change a little bit or pivot. But we've broadly got a kind of a guiding sort of light for that year, and we do kind of stick to that. From my perspective, managing a large mature code base is always challenging, so we try and factor in time to make sure that we get bugs fixed, that we do updates like PHP 8 this year. We knew that was on the horizon, so we made plans to get that done and sort of build the tools we needed to build to help other people get through that transition. So those are the things we think about when we are approaching sort of planning for a year.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, to Matt's point about that, in any kind of company, I come at it from sales and marketing perspective. So clients are really excited about this. Clients really want this, and this. And then Matt will come back and say, "That's wonderful, but there's these other things we need to do too. We have to get some of this newer technology in place, because if we don't do that, you could have security problems or performance problems, or you got to prepare for the future. There's always that balancing act between, I think, new, exciting, cool things and just other, I hate to use the word boring, but these sort of necessary things you have to do to make sure the platform just functions correctly, which isn't
Right.
exciting, but it's necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things we want to do, like we want to refactor the sort of language system and how that sort of handles languages to be a little bit more efficient. But when you sort of put it that it may take sort of 3 months to get that through and done, you've got to plan that, so does it interact with other things? And I think that's the boring stuff that has to get done. But obviously we are conscious of the fact that if we don't deliver new functionality, then you don't want to get stagnant as a platform. So it's finding that balance is key.
Yeah. Love that.
That's actually where pivoting comes in too, because Matt may say, "Oh, we're working on this tech thing," and I might come say, "Oh, client had this great suggestion," and he might say, "Actually, that is a really great suggestion. Let me pause on this and implement that," because you just never know what's going to come up organically throughout the year.
And that's the strength of being, where we are as a platform, that we can maneuver quickly in different directions if we need to. We're not beholden to, a master plan that's been written for 5 years. We can pivot and move, and I think that's always been our strength.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So guys, tell us about this alert system. We did a webinar in October where we gave a tour of the feature, but I would love for you guys to share where the feature stemmed from. I think it's interesting that we launched it in July and then almost immediately leveraged it for new technology. So let's talk about that.
This one sort of came out from a very, very small feature suggestion. I think it was something along the lines of, we had a client who ran a really large, very busy community. Like, I think they have over 1 million members, and they have a huge moderating team and stuff like that. And I think, if I recall correctly, it came from the idea of they wanted to be able to alert a user when a moderator edited a post or moved it, some sort of, where it wasn't like a warning, like they didn't do anything wrong. Moderators just fixing something or moving it to the right place. Minor moderation stuff. They wanted to be able to send the user a bulletin. And we're like, okay, great, that's something we can think about. Then we had another client come along who is in their communities about mental health, and they help people who are in crisis, things like that. They had a request to say, we'd really like to be able to send the user a message saying, hey, a way to alert them and say, hey, here's the resource available. Do you look like you might be struggling? Do you need help? And they say, we need to make sure we need to know they read it, to know they got the message and know that they saw it. And some other kind of feature suggestions kind of came together. Like, well, why don't we create this system where, and this is where the alert system was born from. We're like, gee, we need a way, the summary was a way to send the user a message that we know they read, so we can log it. And that was kind of the first thing. And then we're like, well, then we layer on top, well, what if we wanted them to be able to reply? Or maybe we want to require them to reply. Again, let's take the mental health example. You may say, you have to reply to this because I need to hear from you. You seem like you might be in danger. And so that's where the alert system was born, from taking all these kind of very small feature suggestions over multiple clients and merging them into a system that now people have leveraged for alerting, hey, we have a flash sale going on, or like today's event that we're doing right now, we did an alert. People use it for moderation, people use it for all sorts of stuff. And it's really cool to see how different clients are using it. And we're pretty proud. We're pretty proud of this one because it fits so many different situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think alerts is one example, and you could say it's of almost any feature that we develop, where I think it shows how we work as a team. I remember Charles coming up with that idea, and then as a team we sort of go off and think about it. We've got this brief or this idea, and there's 100 ways you can implement it. You could implement it through the PM system, you could implement it through the notification system, but we eventually landed on being its own thing, just for moderators, because again, there's an area of responsibility when you start building tools. Should members have the ability to broadcast to an entire member group, potentially millions of users? Probably not. So being a moderator tool makes it more secure. So it's just an example of one of those ways where we start with an idea and then we filter it through various sort of people and thoughts and sort of shape it up and decide how to implement it. That was quite a good one.
You made me think of, we were probably 80% done with this feature when we realized, like the welcome PM is something a lot of clients request. And I think there's a modification does this marketplace. We're like, we just added an extra little feature where you could create rules for who gets the alert, and then poof, you have a welcome message. So you just say the rule is new members only get this alert, and it becomes a permanent alert. So when new members join, they get an alert coming up saying, hey, welcome to the community. They can optionally reply. And the other nice thing about that, it doesn't clutter up your PM database with all these PMs for every single member who joins. They only, if they choose to reply, does that happen. So it's also interesting when you're, and this happens all the time, Matt, like we're 75% done with a feature and we go, oh, actually, here's all this other cool stuff we can do. And sometimes we can implement, and sometimes we have to stop ourselves and say, no, there's always version 2. There's always a future iteration, because you could just keep adding on to it forever and never release it. And what's the point? No one gets to enjoy it.
That's me. I would just keep building stuff and never release it. I'd be like, one more idea. But yeah, we got to draw a line and we have to get it out. But I think that, the planning of that feature, we made it so the architecture could broadcast to sort of an entire member group or multiple member groups. So things like the welcome PM, broadcasting policy changes, all that was taken care of. And some of these feature requests we sat on for years. And we just didn't feel the time was right to build it. We didn't quite know how to build it or how it fit into our tool set. Mm-hmm. So when alerts came along, we managed to sort of scoop up a bunch of that stuff and get it, and get those.
Because sometimes an individual feature is like, well, that's a good idea, but it's just kind of like, okay. But when you start to put them all together and create a system, that's when it gets more exciting. And like you said, you can like sweep up a dozen feature requests in one edition.
Yeah, it's always fun when we get to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Alrighty, where are we with webhooks and other integrations such as Zapier? We've been bringing additions and changes to that functionality for the last few years. So can you tell us what it's all about so our users can understand why we keep improving them, and then ultimately help them understand so they can take advantage of it for their own communities?
You're right. This is something we've been for years now. We've had our API for quite some time. We keep improving it. We added webhooks. That was something Daniel on our team did. He did it really well because he's really into these sort of integrations. And Zapier support. Now, anyone who works here knows I'm the world's biggest fan of Zapier because it lets me, who I am not a programmer, to do really cool stuff. Actually, a lot of things we do for to keep track of customer service stuff and different things, that routes through Zapier, because it just makes life so much easier and it lets me do really, really interesting things. And as we keep adding these, clients leverage them more and more and more and make more and more feature requests. So we're going to talk about 2023 later, but as a preview, one of the things we are adding is GraphQL as a new API method in addition to REST API. The great thing about GraphQL is it's in some ways a lot more flexible than REST APIs, because you can actually kind of have queries within the API request. You can say, I only want this data set, or I want to filter it out. So instead of here's all the data, you can tell the API, I only want this snippet of data. The other nice thing in GraphQL is it's way more JavaScript friendly. So you can do things in the software after execution. So you can have a button that calls the API. So you don't have to write PHP code, things like that. You can do it all through the API. So that's something we're really excited about. I think clients will leverage that. We have some clients that are integrating our platforms into mobile apps and other native applications, and they need the API to be able to, do different calls and stuff like that. So they're excited about that. Also, we do plan to add more native integrations. We have like WordPress logins, HubSpot, Salesforce is something we get asked about all the time. So you can do that through Zapier, but we're looking at some more native things. So I think, webhooks integration is something. Every time we add another one, I am always fascinated to see what clients do with it. And it's also when I'm talking to clients on the consulting side and they say, oh, gee, I really want to make it so I want to pull out when someone gets points through the achievement system, I want to log that in Salesforce so I can get a kind of a value score for that member, which then I can, target them with advertisements, or I can reach out to them, or, whatever that may be. And you can do that right now with webhooks. You say every time points, it feeds into Salesforce, and we have clients who do that. And they get kind of a good view of that user in terms of what they do in Vision Community, but also what they might do when they purchase their products, what they do on social media, everything that user does. So I think these kind of integrations are super important for clients to kind of mesh it all together with all their different systems.
Yeah, I agree. And definitely a shout out to Daniel, who is a big advocate for all things API. A lot of the stuff that we've put in has come from Daniel's suggestions, or, just sort of bringing stuff to our attention. Things like Zapier is great, sort of no code is a big thing. 2 or 3 years ago, to be fair, if we wanted to move members that registered to a MailChimp list, would have had to write the code for that. But now we just use Zapier. It just saves time. You can literally a few clicks and it's done. You don't have to maintain it, think about it ever again. It just does its thing.
Well, now you can actually use webhooks, because you talk about, like, that's a great example. A few years ago, you had to write custom code to integrate MailChimp. Then we introduced Zapier. Great, you can do it. Now you can do webhooks directly to MailChimp. So it's interesting how that evolves over time, and you end up with tighter and tighter integrations with third parties.
Yeah, webhooks again. And Daniel came, he wanted to do that. Instead of having to poll constantly asking, is there any new data? Is there any new data? You can then say, just listen and I'll tell you when there's new data. And that's a more efficient way of working, which has been really useful. And as you say, GraphQL, pretty excited about. If you're not too familiar with GraphQL, it's kind of like a query language for your APIs. Instead of having to hit 5 or 6 different endpoints, you just hit one and it pulls all the data you need from different APIs together. Really great. It does start to open up possibilities for front end client scripting and API work, rather than having to stick it in a lower level, say in PHP, and request changes at PHP level. You can do it after processing on the client side, and that's clearly where we're heading. That's clearly the future.
Much more robust too, because then when we do updates and stuff, if we change a function, your custom PHP code may break, but with things like APIs and stuff, those don't change in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the PHP processor transition to PHP 8 was, that sort of highlighted that we can make sure our code was up to date, but any third-party code that was running during the upgrade could cause it to effectively crash in a bad way. So, if you did everything on the client side instead, you would sort of negate that risk, and I think it's more secure in the long term as well.
Yeah, and the other big thing is, as we add more advanced features on our cloud platform, many of them don't use PHP. And if you want to integrate with those features, you have to use APIs and stuff, because they're, writing PHP code isn't going to do any good, because they don't use PHP. They use other services and functions behind the scenes. So the only way to interface it is with an API method, and that's really the way it should be. And that's where we're going for there. I think that's a big deal too.
Yeah, and you don't lose any functionality. You'll be able to do everything that you can do currently with sort of PHP code, but just do it on the front end using APIs and client scripts.
Yeah, it's more secure, more robust. It's more upgrade proof. I'm not saying forever. You might need to change something eventually, but APIs don't change in a way like core code does, and so it makes integrations and modifications that you do much more future proof.
And we're doing that right now with the new feature we're building now that I won't talk about, but we are doing very little PHP, and it's all JavaScript. You're using Node, which is JavaScript on a server.
I don't think there's any PHP in that. We could talk about that later.
Yeah, we can do that later. But yeah, that's it's kind of exciting to get into that, and I think that's where the kind of the future is. So
I think we have a slide for that later, so we'll talk.
Yeah, okay. I won't jump ahead.
Well, if you guys watching have any questions about what is possible with webhooks and integrations, please just let us know. Our support team can help you if you ask through our forum as well. So we'd love to hear your ideas and how you hope to leverage those. So let's talk about this concept of smart community or a live community. In July of this year, we launched a handful of features, and I know we have more to come. So let's talk about this concept and what it means to our team and our customers.
So I could talk about this for hours, so I'll try to do the short version, because this stuff excites me. As we've been doing more, more and more clients are choosing the cloud platform over self-hosted, and that's been a trend for years now. But that's accelerating. We've been like, okay, let's really put some effort into our cloud platform, because that's kind of where the industry is going. And when we sort of took a step back and looked at, well, when you don't have to worry about lowest common denominator, like someone just, a $20 VPS and what are they capable of doing, it really opens up a huge array of technologies available. And we're like, oh, we can do stuff that you could never do. And those, either because the servers would go down in a ball of fire because it would be so intense processing it, or the technology is just on there. Things like, let's just take on your list here, trending content. behind the scenes, if you're interested, the way that works is well, it's complicated actually, something to know how it works, but it's truly real time. It's not cache, it's not something that's calculated after the fact. If you pull up what's trending now, it's like Twitter in a way. It's literally right now, and that factors in a lot of what is trending. It factors in, of course, people viewing it, that of course, but it weights things differently. So a view is worth less than a like or a follow, and the most valuable engagement is a reply or a post. So it weights all these things differently to create a trending score for everything. So as people browse the community and they post and they like things and they share things and they follow things, whatever they do, that all gets calculated behind the scenes into this trending object, and it shows your community. And then what we do is every so often we take a snapshot of that. So not only can you see trending now, that's truly real time in the moment, but you can also see trending yesterday, trending last week, trending last month, last year, etc. So you have this whole new feature in place that's dynamic and engaging, but also historical, which I think is something that we thought was really an interesting thing to do there. And again, that was something you could never do because there's so much data being processed, and you have the real-time component, then you have the crunching the numbers component, which is intense. So there's all this kind of stuff going on. You know, who's viewing, who's typing. Again, that uses a node array that we have running now. It uses Redis, it uses some other stuff in place. So literally, and we've always had an online user list. We've always said, oh, who's viewing this topic, but it was delayed. You know, it didn't literally every click update, and it certainly didn't broadcast that out to everyone else that was in your community like it does now. So I think that's really cool. And that kind of came to being, we had clients kind of say, well, we have some of our users use Slack or Microsoft Teams, things like that, and some use our community. I was like, well, we do too. We use Slack here in Vision Community. You know, we get it. And the thing, if you're sitting there in Slack and you see someone's online and then someone types who's typing, you will literally sit there and stare at the box, waiting for them to press enter. It's super frustrating when they decide not to press enter, and then you wonder, like, you left me hanging here. But the point is, anything that's real time, that's in your face like that, it'll change their behavior. They don't feel alone in the community. They know other people are viewing this topic with them. They can see someone's typing a response. And I've already done it on our site. I've sat there and say so-and-so is typing, and I said, well, I'll wait. And then it pops up. And so just me alone, it's changed my behavior. I think these kind of things are super powerful. And then like the image processing. So if you upload an image, it'll process through AI. It can identify what's in the image to add labels and stuff, which is great for search. It's great for accessibility. And of course, moderation. If someone uploads an inappropriate image, you can set the rules for that, which is super powerful. We have clients who target their communities toward younger viewers, and their legal department thinks this is the greatest feature we've ever implemented because it checks up a huge legal liability problem. They think it's great. We also are looking into, and this may be a future feature too, we have some clients who say they encourage their users, they have like live events, like in-person events, and they encourage their users to upload photos to our gallery. But they don't want pictures of children, obviously. And this AI capability has the ability to identify faces that are young, and we can blur them out. That, that's not something we have today, but that's something we're looking into. And I think there's so much we can do with these sort of things. And we have more stuff in the pipeline too that we'll talk about later. But this sort of stuff I find very exciting. And the clients who use it are really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's really, we're at an exciting time with sort of AI and machine learning and things. And I think, people's expectations of what a platform should deliver have changed over the years. We started a long time ago when things were very sort of rudimentary. And now, social media has set expectations for how platforms work with the real-time stuff, and it does lend itself to that feeling of presence. You feel like you're with other people at the same time, and that can be quite powerful. And like you said, I've done the same thing on the forum. When someone's typing in a topic I'm reading, I will wait for that reply to come through, so I won't click away. But I think, just looking forward to the future, if we box ourselves in with just sort of rudimentary technology like PHP, MySQL, and client-side scripting, there's only so much you can do. But if you start to leverage the power of the cloud, and it sounds like a cheesy statement, but you know, you leverage that computing power that we can tap into, you can do so much more, and you can deliver more exciting features, and not just exciting features, but as you said, with the image moderation, you can start to make lives easier for people and reduce sort of moderation burdens. And that's genuinely exciting to me.
Yeah, it's been so well received from clients who use. They really enjoy it. Particularly like the who's typing, who's viewing, and trending content. They seem like such basic features, but they really change the dynamic of a community. Because oftentimes when I'm talking to clients in sales, they ask me like, you know, like social media and the challenge between social media and then what like our platform is. I said, well, there's 3 ways people engage on the internet. They use social media, Twitter, etc. They use something like Slack and Microsoft Teams, which is that real-time chat sort of thing. And then they use platforms like ours. I said, well, they all have their place. You know, social media is really great about right here, right now, but you cannot have an ongoing conversation on Twitter. That's not what it's for. It's just not what it's for. That's what a platform like ours is for. The same as Slack. You know, we use Slack here, but we don't use it for keeping track of, you know, what did you say about that yesterday? Well, yesterday maybe 50 pages of scrolling up. That's not what it's for. You know, where what our platform is ongoing conversation, knowledge sharing, and, you know, kind of that constant engagement. But layering these more dynamic features have really changed how people view what we do. And clients are reporting back to us saying, you know, people are excited about that. It feels more alive. They don't feel like it's so static and stuff like that. And we're going to add more of these sort of real-time sort of features as we go.
Yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, very good. Alrighty, let's talk about some improvements that we've made for efficiency. We delivered a few features this year that were intended to save moderators and community admins time. So can we talk about those features?
A lot of these kind of go in the theme of customer support communities. That's a big, I think I said earlier, big driver for us. You know, people who are using our platform to provide customer support and service because they find it reduces their cost. People find it more engaging, more personable, more human. So that's been a big thing. And a lot of these features here are just taking like our Marcus solution feature and adding more capabilities of that, and you know, doing call out centers like, did this solve your problem? If so, please mark the solution. Those kind of features, and better discoverability of solved or unsolved, both for users and for employees to find questions that have been answered. So all these came directly from user feedback, and as part of a longer term strategy we have, which we'll get into next year and the year after, about further enhancing these capabilities to, you know, if you are using our community as a support platform, which not all clients do, but if you are, you know, it's super important both to answer the question, but also you need to track that. So we added more metrics and reporting to say how long did it take this question to be answered, you know, how many open questions versus closed questions are, things like that. So these are things that really kind of continue to leverage that capability.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it underlines our kind of iterative approach to functionality. You know, it's very easy, as we said earlier in the call, you could spend 2 years building something and never release it. But what we try and do now is get functionality out and let others sort of play with it, test it, and get real life feedback. And that will then shape version 2, which now, you know, with the monthly releases we do, comes pretty quickly. You don't have to wait 9 months for a release anymore. You know, it comes pretty quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. This year we revamped our calendar app. So tell us the reasoning behind doing that, and tell us what that means for other apps as well.
Well, this was something that was kind of like we were talking about earlier, where you have lots of little feature requests that sort of come in together. It's okay, let's work on that. The other thing is, of course, we hadn't done any major updates to the calendar in several years, actually. And finally, a rethink. You know, we renamed calendar to events because we're like, it's not really a calendar. You know, that's why we took away birthdays and some other features that are more like, here's a calendar, but you're not really interacting with it. You know, like a birthday is like, okay, fine, but you don't interact with the birthday. You don't like join the birthday or attend the birthday. It's not what that's for. So, you know, refocus that kind of things, and adding capabilities like today, you know, Zoom link with a little Zoom logo that people join this video today. It's part of a larger thing we're going to do with events. You know, we're going to add in more capabilities with like paid events and some other things we're going to add as well. Really what we see a lot of people are really excited about. We're getting clients who've been with us for 15 years who are suddenly like, oh, I want to enable that app. That's really great. And that's always great to see when people get what we're doing and then want to add it to their community. This was sort of one of the first, we've been doing, and we'll talk about monthly releases later, but I think this is one of the first things that people really saw, like, oh, this is why they're doing this with the monthly releases, because it gives us the ability to occasionally take a step back and go, okay, this needs work, let's do it. This was Andy and Aaron on our team, did a great job with this. Looks great, the new features are wonderful, fixed a lot of old outstanding date bugs. Anyone who does development knows calculating dates is super hard. Fixed a lot of those kind of things, and really gave a nice modernization, a refresh. And I know it's a minor thing to rename from calendar to events, but I think it really drives home where we're going with this application. And we have lots of cool things in mind. And actually, since we've launched it, clients have come back with, oh, now that you have this and I like it, here's a laundry list of ideas we have. Like, well, slow down. We just released it. But we actually, I think we released this, and like a month or two later, we did a round 2 of updates. And that was kind of that kind of thing, like, oh, let's keep iterating, and improving. And it's nice that we can do that now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the events app was, again, we've been in development for about 20 years now, and we've a very mature product. And I think it's just an indication of sort of changing habits and tastes. Back when we did calendar all those years ago, people were posting their birthdays and things. That's less frequent now on other platforms, and even within our own platform, people are more focused on privacy. So we kind of reevaluated, what was the purpose of calendar, sort of looked at the sort of feature suggestions we had, and sort of events was the natural product of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So while we are talking about apps and revamping apps, let's share a preview of our gallery revamp that will be coming next year.
Yeah, great. So events went so well that we said, let's do gallery next. Again, this was Andy and Aaron worked on this. This is a very, very minor preview. We're going to do a blog entry, probably in mid-January or so. We'll really dive into this. New look and feel. As you can see from the screenshots, there's this is I think this is the homepage view here on the left. There's now, of course, the AI stuff that other areas of the platform have. It'll analyze the images and add tags and stuff like that. So the one big thing is video support. So what we find, you can upload videos to gallery now, just a raw video, and that's fine. But what happens is a couple of things. First of all, it just shows a black box with a play button, which is kind of ugly and not great user experience. The other problem was, and this came up recently with a client that is focused on tech. So let's say I upload a video from my iPhone, great. But the format that is, I think it's MOV, is a movie format. Unless you have a specific plugin or something, and you're on Chrome or Microsoft Edge, you can't play that video without a certain plugin. It just shows this weird error message about you need to download a plugin. Not a great experience. So what we kind of came up with, and this actually came up as I will share this story. Andy was working on this too, and I flew. He lives north of Newcastle in the UK, and I flew there. I flew to London to meet with a client actually, and I ended up showing up unannounced at his office. And after he recovered, and in the most British way possible with tea and coffee, it took him a minute. We had a great time together working on this gallery update, and then we came up with a way using our cloud platform. So if someone were to upload a video that was not in a universally playable format, whatever that format is, it would re-encode it. So now what will happen is behind the scenes, kind of like YouTube does, is some of those MOV file, or I don't know what other formats are, AVI, whatever it is, up there, then it'll re-encode it behind the scenes into an MP4, which is pretty universal. And then it also will support, you can kind of see in the screenshot here, the little videos with the player button. It'll actually extract a still from the video. So you have a nice thumbnail instead of just a black box, and that happens automatically behind the scenes. So it's really much more advanced video support than we have now. The videos look good. again, on the screenshot, you can see that one video there. So you can actually have an album of videos, so basically a video gallery and all the other capabilities. So we're really excited, to then leverage some more of those capabilities. We added not safe for work filter because we had some clients who, wanted the ability for users to share images that might be, borderline, and they could just check a little box saying not safe for work, and they can have that filter in place, which people really like. And the old Lightbox overlay was just something that was never really well received. That's gone. So we have a new way to view images, a new way to cycle through images. The Lightbox overlay is gone by default. Of course, if you click an image, those Lightbox will still open up. But as a standard viewing option, that's gone. Tons of improvements, tons of bug fixes. So this is actually done. It's not a pie in the sky thing. It's not a hey, we're working on it. This is actually done. It would be out now, except for the fact it's December and we never release anything new in December because that never goes well. But this will be ready to go in February. And so we're really excited for this, and we'll do a blog entry going in a video, probably going in depth with it. But this is something I think clients will really like.
I think that's exciting, but I think the biggest takeaway from this is that Charles could turn up anywhere at any time, which is quite unnerving, actually.
The rest of the staff is now like, lock your doors.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
close your blinds. You never know.
If we don't hear from Charles for half a day, people are looking at their front door trying to see where he is, because it's quite unnerving. And Charles is the only person I know that would fly into London and then think to pop to Newcastle. And if you're not familiar with UK geography, it is some distance away. One does not simply pop to Newcastle. It's quite a trip. So that was
this one does. And
yeah, well, I know Charles does.
You never know when I might show up to talk about video encoding.
It's honestly, it's so unnerving.
I love this. So everyone that's watching, look out for our content on the video or the gallery revamps, because that's
yes, I think we were really impressed with that. I think there's a lot of things that everyone and then some of these cloud only features are great too. If you're on a cloud platform, the AI analysis and the video transcoding, I really think will be a huge deal for people to have that universal approach to videos. Yep,
I agree. So we'll share our list of all of our key features that we delivered this year. So if you guys want to share and talk through some of those that you particularly like.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's actually a lot on this that's not on this list. So small things that add up. I think this really demonstrates the power of a monthly release cycle. We used to not do monthly, which a lot of software companies still don't. You kind of bundle things up to once or twice a year, huge releases. And the problem with that was, one, people had to wait forever for bug fixes, for minor updates, for whatever. And also, when we did a release, it was a lot of work, and then you had to maintain it, because there's always problems when a new release comes out that you don't foresee, things like that. But I think our monthly release cycles really allowed us to get things out more quickly. And because the releases are smaller, if there is take the events app, if there was a problem or bugs in there, which there's always is in new development, it's very quick to get a patch out or get a new release out, because at most you will wait 3 or 4 weeks and then we'll have an update out. For that, and that's been great for us too, to be able to implement new cool stuff and not have it be part of 20 new cool things. You could really focus on that one thing, which has been really great. But I'll let Matt talk about that because he's the one to deal with that.
I think there's a lot we could talk about on any of those, but I think, as you said, the monthly cadence is probably the sort of the biggest advantage here, because you can get those features out and we can get bug fixes out. Before we would wait and do this huge release that might take 9 months to put together, so people that were waiting for bug fixes would also have to wait a long time for that. And to be able to deliver those bug fixes, again, as you said, this is kind of the highlights of the year, but it's not everything we've done. We've probably put out well over 800 bug fixes, along with a lot more sort of minor functionality. So to be able to deliver those updates every single month has been pretty good, I think, for us and for our customers.
Yeah, I really think our development team really likes it too. I think it allows them to focus on this one thing, get it done, get it out, refine it, and say, okay, great, that worked great. Now we can move on to the next thing. So it's worked pretty good for us, and I think clients like it too. We do monthly releases; they're not all big. Like December's release is by design, very small. So
Yeah.
Olivia, you lost your screen share.
Sorry, I lost my screen share. Let's see.
Uh-oh.
That was our last slide anyway, wasn't it?
We're pretty much
Oh,
there, yeah.
pretty close. Yeah. Let's see. Are we back? Are we back?
hmm
Okay, awesome. So we do have a few questions. What or are there any major trends that you've seen develop over the year? And if so, how should community leaders respond to them?
Trends, yes, and trends change all the time. I mean, it's actually really funny. Like, I think the calendar application is a great example. For years and years and years, no one really cared. No one asked us about calendar. And in the last year or two, it suddenly kind of had a renaissance because people were hosting virtual events, of course, a lot. They were, and also in-person events are coming back. So all of a sudden, we had clients from very different sort of types of communities coming to us and saying, "Hey, we're doing events. Can you help us, implement those better?" Obviously, things like videos, that's become a big thing. Images are much more heavy. But I would think the big trend, like I've said before, client support communities is a big trend, and also kind of the rise of what I would call professional community managers, people whose job it is to make the communities a success, because companies are starting to see how valuable communities can be. One, it engages your customers, which is always great. But more importantly, it's a sales tool. We have a lot more clients who, one of our most common custom feature requests is a hidden button that only employees can see in the community. So if someone posts something in the community that's like a sales lead, they click a button and it goes into Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever their CRM is as a lead, and their sales team can reach out on them. That's been a huge thing. So a lot of this kind of stuff is going to be people seeing community, not just like, oh, here's our forum and people are going to talk about our products, but no, it's a sales tool, it's a marketing tool. It reduces support expenses and overhead. It creates a knowledge base. So people are really starting to see that value in the executive level, which means they're hiring community managers to make sure that success is there. So I think that's been a huge change over the last few years. It's a professionalization of communities looking at.
Yeah, I think tied into that is we're seeing an increased need for reporting and statistics, trying to get data out of the community. That's becoming key. And I think just generally, I think, in terms of working with communities, we still live in very divided times. So I think investing in moderation and, being proactive in moderation is key to kind of keeping the health and the sort of friendly nature of your community on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, for sure. And in a lot, we often, when we're doing the consulting things with the clients that we help those areas, you hear me especially talk a lot about positive moderation. Because so many people come at moderation and say, oh, banning and controlling and blacklists and all this kind of stuff. Like, no. Do positive moderation where you're promoting content. That's like our achievement systems or the alert system we talked about, or being able to recognize quality posts and pick quality posts in public. Clients who really lean into that have a much more healthy, friendly community because they're saying, no, this is the behavior we want. If you're not in line with this vibe, so to speak, then we don't want you in our community because you're distracting from it. And I still feel, while I say positive, if someone's coming in and being, a troll, basically, like, just ban them. It's not worth trying to convince them to be a nice person. Don't bring down your community to try to get one person to somehow, not be a grump, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. What advice would you give to community moderators, and what tools do you feel are their greatest assets to heed to this advice and helping their communities thrive?
Well, kind of what you're saying is, focus on the positive, encourage behavior, engage your users in ways that show them how you want them to behave. When someone posts a great post, highlight it, say thank you. These kind of things, and get buy-in in the organization. That's actually talking about trends. That's another trend I'm really seeing is, you may be the one who runs your community organization. You may be the one, you're a community manager, you're the moderator, whatever. But the whole organization has to understand that this is valuable engagement with your customers, with your users. And the more they see you doing that, the more they're going to engage, and it just gets more and more valuable, that engagement.
Yeah, in terms of tools, we've got a lot of functionality that can help. Things like the achievement system, take some time to set it up to make it unique for your community and tie it into your community's theme. You know, we provide you with a great set of defaults, but it's really there as a starting point. And one of the more powerful functions within the achievement system was actually Charles's idea. I don't mind saying that. That was the reward author, where you can leave a personal note and a custom badge to a specific piece of content. I think that kind of personal touch is definitely more impactful than just an automated system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being able to just flag something, hey, this is great, or thank you, or people go, oh, I want my pat on the back, so I'm going to post good stuff too. It's I always tell clients, part of running community is psychology. We have all these tools in the platform, but it's so much just about getting people to get what you want out of them.
Yeah, I agree. Very nice, guys. All right. So reflecting on 2022, what feature or change are you most proud of?
What features am I most proud of? I mean, for me, I would probably say the new Smart Community live engagement stuff, because one, I just love it. Two, I'm really proud of what the team put together, because I mean, it may just be a little, hey, here's who's viewing this. It took some work to get, like, we think about it, we host thousands and thousands of communities. Doing this in a robust way that would be reliable, and that's so much data going back and forth. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes to make that indicator work. But more importantly, now that we have that technology in place, the sky's the limit. We can have so many more things that will make your community come alive, and we're really excited about adding some of those things.
Yeah, I don't think I can pick out one thing. I think if just on the general theme, the most thing I'm proud of is that we find ways to sort of manage our code base, which is quite mature, and still be able to add new functionality and move in new directions with it. That's quite exciting to me.
Nice. I love that. Thanks, guys. Alrighty. As we wrap up this portion of the call and get ready for questions, can we summarize what we have planned for 2023?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about a few things I've alluded to in the call. I mentioned the gallery update. We talked about quite a bit. Another big thing we're doing is our live topics feature, which the Matt and other Matt, it's two. Someone needs.
I'm now called Papa Matt.
Yeah,
because of my advancing years, and Matt is called Junior because he's not old like me.
Yeah, basically. They are working on live topics, which I am so excited about, because I talk to clients about, hey, they ask all the time, what do you have coming soon? I talk about live topics, and for those who don't know yet what live topics are is. So let's say you're doing a webinar like this. We have our video, we're talking, and right now we're using Zoom's chat and Zoom's question and answer feature to host this. With live topics, you don't have to do that. You can still have your video or whatever. You don't have to have a video, but live topics will have a chat room where people can chat, and then moderators can pull questions from the chat into another pane, answer those questions. That's great. That's wonderful. What makes it unique is kind of leveraging what I talked about earlier. The difference between real time and ongoing conversation is, once the live event is over, that live topic with the chat gets turned into a normal forum conversation. So if you were not able to make this event live, and you're watching this video and listening to Matt's commentary, and you're like, oh, I have a question about this, but it's 2 days later, you can still post the question. That because that live topic's been turned to a normal forum conversation, the conversation can keep going. So 2 days later, someone say, hey, watch your video, I had a question. Great, we can come and reply to it. And I think that's really a powerful thing, to leverage the live component, but keep the ongoing conversation component, which we don't want to lose. We don't want to become, like if you do this on YouTube Live, once the video's over, no one comes back later and posts a question, and if they do, they don't get an answer because people have moved on. We don't want that. So we want the live component, We don't want to lose that ongoing conversation component. So that's something we're really excited about, and clients are really excited about too, because they're like, so many things you can do with it. Because the feedback we got was like, yeah, YouTube Live is great. We might still use YouTube Live, but I don't want the chat. I don't want the questions on YouTube Live because that's over there. That's somewhere else. I want that on my community that I can control, that I can engage with, on and on. So that's how it works. Matt, if you want to talk about how, like literally how it works, because that was another thing that was a huge undertaking to get going.
Well, live topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, new technology for us, and it's all Junior's work. He's been working hard on getting the Node side together to handle the sort of the sockets and the communication, and React to tie it all together. And then I've been working on the community side, sort of JavaScript and code on that side. So it's quite a complex feature that will be delivered in a very simple way, but it touches about 7 or 8 different technologies, about 8 different Git repositories. It's really complicated, but it's kind of fun seeing it all come together. And we're getting to that stage now where it's starting to come together, and that's exciting. But yeah, it's all Matt's work, Junior's work. He's done phenomenal work with JavaScript, which is not a strength of mine.
Yeah, layering in React and Node and sockets and Redis, what do they call them, sub push thing? I don't even know.
Publish
there's
event.
so many things in place, and it's actually been kind of fun to implement. But and that's another thing. Once it's out there, I think it's once we have the tech stack in place, there's so many new interesting things we can add to the platform.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and beyond that, we also, I mentioned Gallery Live Topics. We mentioned GraphQL and other integrations. We're going to keep adding those. We are going to do a style update to our look and feel, just kind of give everything a little bit of modernization, a little polish. That's always exciting. Aaron's going to be heading it up. We're adding a lot more statistics and reporting, a lot more to capture what's going on. I actually had a call with a client yesterday who, again, everything comes from client suggestions. They said, hey, your platform's really great at telling me what content is popular, like the trending things you have, posts per day and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, but you're not really great at tracking users, the user side. And they're talking about, like, if a user was dormant, say for 30 days, and then logged back in and became active, that's information we want to know. So those kind of reports, you can get a better idea of the different types of users who engage in our community, and understanding how to get, let's say you did a campaign and 10% of your dormant users became active again. That's pretty good. So you may say, well, let's keep doing that because that's showing results. So, when you have these kind of professionalization of community managers, they need to know what's working on the community. So a lot more statistics and reporting. We're adding email bounce management to our cloud platform. So, some email bounces you can manage like yourself. Some more enhanced security backends, some things like that. We're doing a lot of tech improvements, OpenSearch, Elasticsearch improvements. The list kind of goes on. And Matt, anything you want to throw in? I don't want to.
Just quickly touch on the.
I always try to be careful in these conversations, because I don't want to say, "Oh, we're going to do this," and then
we never release a roadmap.
At the start of this call is, but plans change all the time.
Yeah,
and they don't want to say, "You said you're going to do that." It's like, yeah, but something better came up.
Yeah, for sure. I think the front end refresh. Just a quick note that we will be, things have moved on a little bit since we wrote a lot of our CSS and JavaScript, and Aaron's got ways of removing a little bit of JavaScript that we had to implement for grids and things. He's using Flexbox and things like that now more successfully, so we can pull out a bit of JavaScript, and any JavaScript we lose makes the front end more efficient and a little bit quicker to load, which is always a good thing.
Yep. Yeah, and then we have other larger things probably in the later half of the year. Commerce will get some love. Pages application will get some love. So a lot of those kind of things too, which, the further out we project, it gets a little more nebulous. But there's a lot of things that clients are asking for at a very high level, like reporting, knowing what's going on in the community. Clients really like the live stuff, live engagement stuff, and clients really like the things to sort of help them shape the direction their community wants to go. So a lot of those kind of features.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. I want us to transition over to our questions. Are you guys able to see my screen?
We got one from David there.
We do. We have one from David, and I'm so glad he was able to join us because I have been speaking with him this week. So that's exciting for me. So David is, let's see. He is asking, will the video encoding work with the videos that members upload on the forum? A lot of our members upload MOV files, which cannot be played back on Chrome.
So not in the first version. We're going to keep it within Gallery because it's, as you might imagine, behind the scenes, there's actually quite a lot involved in taking these sometimes quite large files and transcoding them. So we're going to keep it within Gallery for right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do extend it to any attachment anywhere to re-encode those once we sort of prove the technology works and make sure everything is working well on our end. Because you're right, that does come up actually quite a bit. And it's sometimes hard to, even for us, sometimes someone will say, oh, this video is not playing. And it sometimes takes us a few minutes to realize, oh, it's because it's an MOV file, not an MP4. And you can't play it because like if I look at it on an Apple device, it's going to play just fine for me. It's like, well, it's working for me. So to answer your question, not immediately, but I would not be surprised if we do add that feature because it's something I think we should definitely support.
Very good. I have another question. Can you give any additional insight on what smart community features will be coming?
We mentioned live topics, we mentioned video encoding. I would well, I don't know, Matt, what else do we want to talk about? I get so scared to promising deliver. Well, the email bounce management, that's something that we can do on cloud because that's centralized as well. So I did mention that as well.
Yeah, I think smart community wise is probably live topics is going to dominate sort of the first part of the year for us. And after that, maybe we could do a follow-up event where we can discuss the rest of our plans for smart community.
Yeah, and I would say kind of smart community is something, it depends how you define what that is, but I also think way more integrations and way more cross application integrations. So things like, one of the things we like to do is when we update the Commerce application, we want you to be able to have more chargeable content items. For example, in the calendar application, RSVP, you could pay to RSVP. Well, okay, great, but it's paid RSVP is about that far, you're like very, very close to being able to sell tickets to an event. What is a ticket? It's a paid RSVP. I'm paying to come. So you're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff where, as we do these updates, you're going to see things layered into other things. As to David's question just from a minute ago, saying, great, Gallery can do video encoding. What about the other applications? Yeah, for sure, we're going to extend that. Same with some of the existing smart community features, extending them to other areas of the platform.
Yep.
Very good.
And actually, that was a question we got just a minute ago that I already answered.
Yeah.
Can you do ticket sales and events? That is something we are working on because, like I said, it's. I think what I'm excited about for 2023 is all the stuff we did in 2022 that's already in the platform. We can start to leverage more. We have the new technology stacks in place. Now we can do cool stuff. Then we're doing updates to like the events app. Well, it's not a whole lot of a stretch to say, let's sell tickets. Now that we have events as a concept, you hook it into Commerce, you can sell tickets. So I think you're going to see a lot of like those kind of layering in of new, really not only interesting features, but features that people can leverage to monetize their community or to promote their community in really, really new ways.
Yeah, I love that. We also have a question asking if you could expand a bit more on the stats that will be available.
Yeah, sure. So two things we're doing with stats that I know we're doing. One, we get a lot of requests. We have our dashboard in there. We actually, if you look at our stats section, I think we have a lot of statistics and reports that you can access. We're getting a lot of feedback from clients who say, your stats are great, but if I want to go get like a holistic view of what's going on in my community, I have to click each stat and click download and then put into Excel and make charts and graphs and stuff like that. I want to do. And they said that's fine. What they want is the ability to create a custom report which matches all that up together. They click one button, here's your report. And that's something we're going to do for sure, because the data's there. We just got to make it easier for the human to get that out. And then, and I think I talked about this earlier, a lot more statistics reports around the what are people doing. We already have some reports, of course, from members, obviously, but we've always tended to focus more on content. What's the most popular content? What's getting the most replies? What's getting the most likes? That kind of thing, and a lot more on who is doing that. What's your top 10% of engaged users? And you can get that data now, but we think we can do better to give you that report in a way that's much more useful and engaging.
Yeah, and I think with stats and reporting, if we limit ourselves just to MySQL, it can be very expensive to pass that on demand. When you have a few million rows in a MySQL table, trying to group on that data and pull out data is expensive. So we're looking at other ways to sort of process it on cloud. And we can leverage things like Python, which is really good with maths, really quick with maths, and to help compile that data to get something more impactful from the raw numbers.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right, because MySQL is fine, but on cloud we have DynamoDB, we have Redis, we have all sorts of other storage engines and processing options that can crunch those numbers. Because imagine if you want to, let's say we do reports like, show me every user over from the beginning of time, their trending activity. Well, that would take literally hours to process that data on large communities. You can't do that on the fly. Where on our cloud platform, on the back end, it can process that data, compile these reports, and then present it to the user in a pre-compiled fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, those are the questions that we have for today. Do you guys want to cover anything else while we're here? I know we've covered so much already.
We have. I kind of like, I think 2022 was a really successful year for us because we did a lot of things that we had, I won't say been putting off, but just hadn't had the ability to do. And that was what we're saying. We implement a lot of new technology, which clients are already using, already loving, but they're going to see that technology leveraged in new, unique ways in 2023. And I think you're at a point where a lot of community managers and people who are very serious about communities are realizing that you can't just, it's not like it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you slap a form up and people just post messages. They expect so much more in what the platform needs to give them. It can't be static, it can't be tired, it can't be, quiet. It has to show them what's going on, content discovery. While they're in the community, it has to show them that there are other people around. That's where the live community stuff comes in. You're not alone. You're engaging with real people right now that are doing this. It has to call out to them. That's why notifications and things like that are important. It has to kind of envelop them the same way social media does, where they truly feel like they're part of something. Because the human component, I think, is what we're really stressing. That's what you see so much about events and the gallery events. Share your photos. Well, that's a human experience, photos and videos. These are people doing things out in the real world. And I think the human component is what you're going to see us really pushing is, the psychology behind I want to feel engaged in something. And that's what social media is really good at. I'm not saying, we're not, people are still part of a community, but making it feel more alive. And it's like, it's you're inside of it instead of just looking at a screen, reading a topic and pressing reply. There's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think forums as a platform, you're constantly battling against people that last used them 5 years ago or 6 years ago or 10 years ago, and kind of, are dismissive about the power of them without realizing that so many communities are still powered by forums. And we want to keep ensuring that our feature set is meeting current expectations and, delivering those things that people need now.
Mm-hmm. But also, you don't hear us say forum much anymore. You hear us say community. Because the thing is, when you think about what is a forum, most of the internet is still just a forum. If you really think about it, at the end of the day, it's people post something, people reply. you can call that a forum or a bulletin board or, some old term. But when you look at it from a mindset of community, what you're saying is, regardless of how the user's interacting, maybe they are posting a forum discussion, or they're uploading image to a gallery, or they're sharing a file, or they're buying tickets to an event, whatever they're doing, it doesn't matter what they're doing as long as they're doing it and they're engaging, and other people are seeing that engagement happening and saying, oh gee, these 10 people purchased this ticket to the event, I also want to purchase this ticket to this event, because now I recognize their name because I saw them post this really insightful comment on this topic over here. And that's a community when you're putting all that together.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. All right, guys, thank you so much for doing this call today. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope this was fun and insightful for everyone. If you have any questions that arise after watching this video, please feel free to reach out to us via our community support forum. We will post a topic that coincides with this chat, so we would love to engage with you all there. We do have a few reminders. Stay tuned for our upcoming classes, chats, and webinars. Our next 2 scheduled events are on content curation and community security. If you have suggestions for other topics or features that you would like us to showcase, please let us know. Also, as we've mentioned a little bit throughout the video, this time of year we slow down on our development a little bit and focus more on internal projects and planning, which is important for us to make sure we're working well together. So with that being said, our December release, which is now available, is limited in scope, and we will not deliver a January release. In the new year, we will get back to our monthly release cycle. So that concludes our time today. And I want to thank you all again for watching, and ultimately thank you for using Envision Community. We'll see you next time.